Today's guest is Mark Ricks, and I am really excited to have Mark on the podcast today to tell us all about his business, Feel Good Promotions. Mark is someone I've met for the very first time on this podcast, as is happening a lot lately with my podcast guests. And I'm really excited to see where this takes us and to share a little bit about what Mark does in the business community and in the community of Rockhampton and Central Queensland with his business, and have the opportunity to really unpack that a lot more as to, what Feel Good Promotions is all about. So thank you so much for joining me, Mark.
No worries at all, Nyree. How are you?
I am going well, thank you, in this, where am I? At the Botanic Gardens today.
How nice is that? Yeah.
Yes. Before we get really stuck into it, Mark, though, I would like to ask you, if you could be an expert at anything at all in the world, what would it be and why?
Well, what I would choose would be to be a professional marketer of kindness. And why? The world needs much more kindness today, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And we were talking about that before I hit record. And
Mm.
kindness, we never know what someone is going through. We never know what the person in front of us at the checkout is going through, what our colleague at work is going through. So if we can all just practice kindness, the world would be in a much nicer place.
Yes, it certainly would.
I think your mission or your want of something obscure or to be an expert in directly aligns with your business. So that's brilliant.
Yeah, that's right. And it's why we feel good promotions. So, yeah, we want people to feel good, and kindness is a doorway to doing it.
Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. So tell us a little bit about Feel Good Promotions and how it was created and why it was established. Of course, you were a paramedic for many, many, many years and have recently finished up in that role in the last 5 or 6 years. But tell us a little bit about that journey and what started Feel Good Promotions.
Well, thanks. Yeah, so it actually began roughly around 14 years ago when I was in a local business house here in Rockhampton. Shout out to them too, which is Captain Nemo's. And this particular day, I'd heard about pay it forward coffees, and I thought, I wonder if I could pay it forward with a Captain Nemo. So I remember feeling so nervous at the register, asking the cashier, the lady, could I pay it forward with one of the sandwiches? And she said, wow, how beautiful is that? So anyway, I did what I did and couldn't get out of the store quick enough. I didn't want to sort of see or be mentioned, just anonymously shoot out the door. And this gentleman was walking in as I was walking out. About a week or two later, I popped back to the same store, and the lady caught my eye as soon as I walked through the door. She said, come here, I want to tell you something. She said, this guy was so touched by the fact that someone would have done that for him. He didn't have a clue who it was, but he was just really overwhelmed that someone would do such a thing in his day. So surely it would have been a good chat back at his workplace. But I just remember how that made me feel, giving sort of something when you do it spontaneous or you have a good intent in your heart really sort of makes you feel uplifted.
Mm.
And you don't know who's going to be the beneficiary of such an act like that. But anyway, that's where it all began. I thought, well, what if you could pay it forward with all goods and services? And it set me off on a journey of many, many years. I'm sort of 14 years into this, and there hasn't been a day in 14 years that I haven't pursued my business model, my idea. And that set off, and I need the business name. And I asked my youngest son, or oldest son at the time, what name would you choose? And he said, Feel Good Promotions. So it's been Feel Good Promotions from there on in, and that set off my journey into wanting to make kindness Australia's biggest marketing campaign and platform and turn it into a national and global brand. That was the question. How do you do that? So you can
Yeah.
imagine it's been the loneliest journey of my life, but it's part of not only the 36 years in the ambulance, this bulk of my life and dedication to this. I want to see it through, and I now have a system approach that can do that after many years. So when I can explain, I will.
That's awesome. And isn't it amazing how being a business owner is absolutely lonely unless you are talking with someone who knows exactly what it's like? You just sometimes don't share because
Mm.
you can't relate. I can, but yeah, it's really tricky. It's very lonely. You learn a whole heap of skills that you never even thought you would learn in your lifetime. Um,
Absolutely.
I can imagine, being a paramedic for 36 years and then you possibly never thought you'd be learning systems and national marketing and local and state marketing and CRMs that are out there, landing pages for
That's right.
websites, and yeah, just
So
it's an
much.
incredible set of skills. Yeah,
Yeah, that's right. You
yeah,
sort of become a bit of a self-taught expert in the end, don't you? As you keep progressing
yeah.
your life, step by step, you learn more. So be encouraged, listeners. It can be done. Don't never quit on your dreams.
That's it, yeah.
Hmm.
And sometimes you'd sit back and go, "Wow, I know some stuff."
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So there are some rewarding moments in that lonely journey.
Exactly.
Yeah. So tell us a
Hmm.
little bit about, before Feel Good Promotions, what were those key moments across your life? What essentially made Mark who Mark is? Experiences from your early life who have shaped who you are today and influenced that journey you've been on?
Okay, probably never given a lot of thought to this, to be honest. But in terms of, I suppose, like a lot of us do want to make a difference in the world, I had a bit of inventive background earlier to I was sort of early part of my paramedic journey. I sort of created a couple of ideas. Yes, I've always been inspired to think about what could you create that would benefit people. I suppose working in the ambulance service and not the kindness, well, it is certainly is an element of kindness to be kind to people who need help. But I think just the compassion part of it, the wanting to serve, wanting to look at things like that. So, a reasonably good childhood, great parents, things like that. But just giving a lot of thought to where life's journey takes you. So, from a hospital orderly to a paramedic, it was an advanced step to take. And yeah, look, it's been a great thing in the ambulance. I don't know. I probably could be one of the boringest people. I don't know. Happy in being in what I've been pursuing, and certainly very focused on where I want to head today. Yeah.
Yeah, no, wonderful. And you've already spoken a lot about, what inspired you to be on this current path with
Mm,
that moment back at Captain Nemo's. Brilliant
yeah.
sandwiches, by the way. I'll give
Yeah.
them a
Yeah.
shout out as well.
That's
Like,
right. Exactly.
oh,
Oh, they got the best mayonnaise.
how do you think living in Rocky specifically has shaped your story, and what does that community contribution mean to you? Like, you obviously saw a lot of people in very vulnerable states across your career, both as an orderly
Mm.
and as paramedic. But what does that community contribution actually mean?
Yeah, the community contributions, everything, isn't it? Like, I mean, we're often so disconnected. We're connected by technology, but we don't sort of know our neighbour or things like that. So it's a sense of coming together in anything community wise that it's a shared load, isn't it? And inspiration comes from being around others and looking at the good work that they do. And if you can make a contribution or make a helping hand somewhere along the line, everyone has a part to play, and it's yeah, communities it, and I think that's where if we can really connect more and more, the strength of the people would be there. So that's it is everything, I believe. So community. Yeah.
Absolutely agree. And what about the Rocky region? How long have you been in Rocky?
So born and bred in Rockhampton.
Mhm.
I spent a lot of my working career here in Rockhampton, as well as Mount Morgan, at a number of other stations around Marlborough, Doringa, Gladstone, Yeppoon. I've sort of been around the area a bit. So, but Rockhampton is my hometown, so I'm very proud of that. Up born and bred and lived up in Wandle there. So yeah, nice area, part of town.
We're very lucky, aren't we? We've got a hidden gem here in Rocky.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. So what's been your biggest challenge through all of this? Well, through your whole journey, really, but more specifically around feel good promotions. What's been that big challenge you've had to overcome?
Well, again, it's this desire to turn kindness into marketing campaigns, into a brand, to create a brand that would be sought after by everyone from individuals right through to multinationals alike. So, with that in mind, I wanted to find a path to see more promotions for people to be a part of it, hear stories, more stories. And I mean, it's out there, don't get me wrong. There's many pages of kindness and organisations, and they're doing some absolutely fantastic, wonderful work, both here and all around the world. World Kindness Day is on its way, and it's only a matter of a week away or something like that. And these things can be celebrated, and they should be celebrated in as much kindness and remembrance of trying to do something that's let someone in traffic do something nice. But I think when you take it and you brand it and you market it, it has more power, it has more meaning, and it's driven by not just yourself; it's driven by a vision of change. So yeah, and we at Feel Good Promotions, our company has 5 registered trademarks covering in various classes of trademark. And I don't want to get into the technicalities of IP law or anything like that. Kindness of itself is universal. Everyone owns kindness. So I have been asked, wow, you own kindness? And I said, well, I don't own kindness. We all own kindness. I said, I'm
Mm.
building a marketing model that uses words and word phrases on packaging and products and services and things like that. I said it's that type of kindness, not kindness that we all can share. No one owns that. We all own it. So I said, but in order to do this, you need those powerful words and phrases. If they could be trademarked, and we have been able to establish those, we've now got a background of business operation to turn that model into something. It's that the keywords and phrases I was going to mention was kindness, random acts of kindness, pay it forward, be the change, and do good, feel good. Now they're all sort of wonderful on their own, but when they're joined together or used in combination, they actually create a call to action. And you think about it, I could be the change, you could be the change. As it says, we can all be the change we want to see. And I think as people see that just the simplest act of kindness, it doesn't mean you're buying a kindness product. It just, the messaging's there. When the messaging's not there, you don't think of it. When the messaging's there, obviously we see a TV ad, we relate something pleasant and nice. We see people doing that good. And if we can find a way and we can do that good too, then people genuinely want to be kind. Sometimes it's just not knowing how to. And it's not all about products and services, but it is a message of sort of reminding people that way. So our car is branded. Some people around the town, I mean, I've seen your car out there, Mark. It's got pay it forward written on it and a big QR code. And on the back window, it says, be the change.
Mm.
So that messaging, just driving around the street, I've had people let me into traffic. Thank you, everyone who's let me in and paid it forward for me. But what I'd say is, anyone can do anything. It's an act of kindness, but look at the state of the world. So does it need messaging? Does it need structure? As a brand, does it need that sort of thing? Well, my belief is it does. And it was always the trouble of finding how do you turn that idea then into something that others could be a part of? And can I share on how I found the idea? Yeah, right. So years went by and people were saying, Mark, what is it that you're trying to achieve? We got no idea what you're up to. And to be honest, I really didn't know myself. I just sort of kept edging forward and learning more about creating logos and so on. And I just went on my merry way. And then when COVID come along, we all remember that these QR codes come in now. Some hate them, some like them, but they're there and they're on all packaging today. But when I first saw those, when COVID come along, I thought that is the answer because I have the words, but how do I direct people to places where they can pay it forward or where they can learn about kindness or they can engage in some sort of marketing campaign? So hence why you see the pay it forward vehicle has a QR code. You can scan it. It'll go to a landing page. From there, you can find out more, a website or whatever. So then I got my head on thinking. I sort of looked at that. I thought that's not the only part of the marketing, but it's a strong point because then could we get individuals, families, schools, businesses, charities, and multinationals alike on board under one unified kindness marketing platform? So this is a long journey to get to this point. I'm just simply cutting to the chase. And today we have that model and we've set it up and the structure's there to do so. And now when I walk into a business or I share my story with people and they can see that it's a system that they understand, the messaging's there and they can actually be a part of it too by having their own dedicated landing page within that platform and put their proud sponsor logo on the back of their car window or on their door at their business house, pay it forward with kindness. That QR code then is scannable to a menu, for example. It could be used in supermarket chains. It could be put on anything and everywhere. And so we have this nice big bright orange tappable pay it forward with kindness button. And so many things have sort of entered my mind, but the way I see it is with that button too is that donations, we certainly need to help and donate as much as we can. And I'm sure people often hit with the question, would you like to make a donation? I sort of thought to myself, donation, it's very transactional, but pay it forward with kindness sort of feels as though you're a part of something. You're doing something that's beyond that measure, and the messaging feels a lot nicer. So that's our angle. That's our marketing angle too for these tappable buttons and things like that that can link to uh, payment systems to raise money, whether it's for the rescue helicopter or wherever it go. But it's a sense of, doing something, pay it forward, kindness. So that's all about messaging. And the QR code, I think, is definitely the dynamic QR code, and those landing pages are the key because it then, as I said, gives the ability for everyone. Think of a brand kindness, but it's exclusive and no one really gets to do it. Now think of a
Mm.
brand kindness and everyone can be a part of it and can share their message on basically a national, but something then potentially lead into that global sort of platform. When I realized what I did have eventually, it certainly had me in tears because I thought there's not a brand in the world, there is none, unless someone can tap me and show me that has been able to put in a system, a plug and play system where everyone gets a go, and feel a part of it. And we're talking before about community. So if we're going to promote kindness and we do it together and we do it in all different ways, that can be done day to day, sharing with each other. But it's a sort of like this happy moment to know that you can be a part of something. It's that connection. And as I said, in the world, it connects us all, but it's been difficult to find ways to share it. One of our little projects we had out in the community still is happening is our pay it forward or our kindness hamper baskets, a simple basket that's branded with the kindness messaging. And we've had businesses, families, people fill these and they're taking off to the charities, local charities, and given in that way that the charities can help people within the community with those products. But the basket was a simple basket, but the messaging on it's powerful. Plenty of families say to me, look, we've grabbed one of these baskets, popped it in our lounge room, popped a few items in it week by week, and we filled it up. But I'm sure it's the messaging behind it because there's lots of baskets out there. People are filling all sorts of things and giving, and that's absolutely beautiful. But I think the message of kindness, as I said, it just resonates deep. Yeah, that's been my mission, my goal, and I think I'm on to something here. But look, without everyone being involved, any good ideas, it's not for me. If at the end it doesn't make any difference, then a whole bunch of trademarks mean nothing. It's really about seeing that change and seeing it grow and hearing more stories and people wanting to be involved where you just see it growing. And it's certainly getting some traction now. Sorry, I've taken a lot of the
I've
time.
loved listening to
Yeah,
everything that you just shared, and I
yeah,
imagine the audience will as well.
yeah.
I really love how you separate and articulate very well that difference between a transactional donation
Mm,
and a feeling of kindness,
yeah,
because as you experienced at that first Captain Nemo's, I'll buy the next person's sandwich, that feeling has a ripple effect through the rest
yeah,
of your day and every person that you see and talk to. I'm always reminded that people don't remember what we say to each other generally,
yeah.
like we
No,
remember how we make each other feel.
feel.
And so if you're in a state where your heart is full because you've
Yeah,
passed on kindness or you've paid it forward,
yeah.
everyone you talk to that day or that week, potentially even that month, is
Yes,
feeling the benefit of that action that you took. And I think it's brilliant that you've marketed it and branded it in a way that makes it consistent and easy to relate to, because being in marketing yourself, you would know that a confused mind always says no.
mm,
Essentially, what you've done from my
mm,
perspective,
yeah,
and probably intentionally, is you've removed that confusion. You've
yeah,
created a unified brand and front where people
Yes.
see something and go, I know what that stands for and I want to be a part of that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah. I know. When I had success, someone who's been doing something for 20 years often, people
Mhm.
will see the end result of the journey. The
Yeah.
journey's massive. But look, if it didn't have such meaning, and I would say to people listening today, if kindness marketing in itself today is not relevant in the world we're living in and going into now, it would never be relevant. So if we can in any way do just one small seed of good in our day, and I'm sure many do, it snowballs. But if you put a plug and play method in there, imagine going to the local supermarket. Let's use these big players named Coles, Woolworths, or other. And if in their integrated system, you think about the barcodes, think about the barcodes on product and QR codes. Let's run through a scenario where at Woolies or Coles now, and they've integrated pay it forward with kindness. First point I'll make is Coles and Woolworths would never have an exclusive. Never. Do you know why? Because the individual is as entitled to this platform as the biggest brand you can name. So, okay, so everyone gets involved. The supermarket chain integrated that into their payment system. And we're out shopping and we picked up for ourselves a dozen eggs. The barcode scanned, the product's recognized. And if there was a button on that screen and you could tap pay it forward one, two, or extra, and we paid forward a dozen eggs into the system, because it is a system, think about it, that barcode is recognized. The system recognizes there's one extra of that particular brand available for someone else to enjoy. We leave the supermarket and over, oh, I don't know, in Sydney somewhere or other, someone's scanning that same brand of eggs, the barcode recognizes it, the platform, the system that's integrated into that system knows there's one of those products to give away to someone, and the
Mhm.
person discovers you've just received this. Look, I remember a guy who got up in Mount Morgan when I kicked it off up there. A guy got a postage stamp through a mini pay it forward system when I first started, an elderly gentleman, and he told the whole town about it. He said,
Mm.
someone bought me a postage stamp. It was the most funniest saying, but it was, like it just seemed ridiculous, but it touched him so much. It was a postage stamp. So you imagine walking out of Woolies under a system that's there, that's plug in, and people know that it's a system. All of their vendors, people would get involved, put some products in, private system. Look, it would be just phenomenal of the acts of kindness. And whether it was some people got a fair bit of extra money, want to pay for a packet of nappies because they think, look, I'm getting one for me. There'll be another lady with a child who'd love that. So there you go. So products and services linked to barcodes and QR codes, landing pages and structure. Like you don't scan or tap your FPOS card. If we didn't know that it worked, we wouldn't do it. But when it's built and it's built as a structure and it's built as a brand and people know it and they recognize it, then you see it on side of packaging. See it on your cornflakes package. You scan, pay it forward. Now, who would you be paying it forward on cornflakes? They can link it to charitable giving. They could link it to ways to send a message to a friend. You've received a packet of cornflakes. Look, I mean, imagine getting a message on your phone today. You've just received a Gus coffee, for example. Shout out to Gus Coffee because I love Gus Coffee.
Yeah.
And the message pops up and you say, pay it forward with kindness. You have received a Gus Coffee, and you simply take your phone in. They scan it there. They see that the product was paid for and gifted forward to you, and you could send out messages that way, or it can be done randomly under a system. But the thing is, the tech is there, the ability is there. It's just, as you said, people to understand what you're doing. And then once it starts to evolve and grow, look, it can be everywhere, scanned off billboards, merchandise, anything you could think of with that branding, it's there. So that's the summary of it all. But we have a number of participating sponsors now who are linked it to point of sale to give people that opportunity to tap that big pay it forward with kindness button. That's great. They can scan it off a coaster or they can scan it off a sticker on their table or their door window. Proudly supported. They're a proud sponsor of the campaign. And look, we have a number of free spots to give away too for some families. So if someone's listening out there, family activated cards, we have our bronze, silver, gold, and platinum sponsor levels. So some of the businesses around town and even further afield around the countryside have gotten on board, and we're speaking overseas to a number of different organisations who are looking with interest. It's because of what we got, the tech enable aspect that's going to scale it. Without the tech, it's messaging and it just loses the effect. With the tech, with the scan, with the
Maybe.
landing page.
Mm,
So anyone can plug into it. And that's the beautiful part. And that's the thing that for me touches me, is that to come up with that and to have a brand called kindness that every demographic can be a part of. It's just like,
mm,
how do you do that?
mm,
That's why I know no one can have exclusive on it. The gentleman or the kid or the whoever who wants a card. Think of it too, like that QR code, the dynamic QR code is the entry point too. People want to be a part of that platform, and it is a system. It is something that's structured. People can get involved, but they have their own unique place in that, in as much that they have their own landing page and they get to do many aspects of what we offer, but they're a part of a bigger platform too. So yeah, no crossover. Scan the QR code at the cafe. It'll only ever go to their cafe. It won't go anywhere else. Scan the school card. It'll only ever go to the school. So, and from there, the messaging just grows and grows, and print it on paper and articles and all sorts of things. But a little shout out too, if you don't mind, the Wellbeing Hub in Yeppoon. They've done a nice, yeah. So thank you to those guys for doing a write up too. And you can say that they're another one of our wonderful sponsors of the National Kindness Campaign. And yeah, so I'd say Australia, embrace kindness in your day-to-day life. And if you'd like to be a part of our platform, part of our program, we'll welcome everyone. So everyone's welcome.
mm. That
Mm,
is so good. I
mm,
love everything about this. One of my favorite things or favorite sayings, which you touched on before, is you're an
mm.
overnight success after 14 years. So everyone always sees the overnight success, but they don't see almost like the iceberg that came before that. So,
Yeah,
yeah, this is just a classic example of that. 14
yeah.
years, you've poured your
Mm,
heart and soul into it. And, you know, now you're talking to people overseas, which is
mm,
fantastic.
mm.
What, when things get really challenging or hard or, you know, especially when you in small business and you're working for yourself, what keeps you going every day? What keeps driving you forward on this campaign?
Well, for me, I don't know, I get a little bit touched by it, but just that it means that much to me. It seems like I've been given a certain responsibility to hold on to a belief that the world needs a message, and that stick with it, you'll find the way, you know. So it's
No, don't apologize.
a, as I said, it's been the most exciting and lonely journey of my life. And it's something that I could have easily given up on many times. But when when the realization came of a system, until it's a system, it doesn't work. No one, as you said, no one understands it. No one will ever get it. People would say, yes, it'd be nice, but how do you do that? There was all those questions. There was, how stupid or what, even putting me boys down that, where's it going, Dad? You're really gonna, is anyone interested in this? But when they hear and see the structure and I walk into a business or speak to someone about it today, it's just like instantly understood. God, I spoke to a young guy the other day who was 30, and he listened to the story, and you could just see his eyes were flickering in his hand. He said, man, that's going to be massive. And I said, you can get it, can't you? And he said, oh my God. He said, do you know what you're sitting on there? I said, well, I didn't. But when I realized what I had created because of the tech and the way the system would work, I said, I did. I actually broke down and cried. I thought, my God, kindness at that scale? Who could do that? How? And I thought, imagine you quit a month before you realised that one thing you needed to realise. Imagine the guy who, Edison making the light bulb, if he'd, what was it, a couple of thousand attempts. And he could give
Yeah.
up after, and most of it give up after 100 attempts, let alone 1,000. But he kept going, and He just kept finding. But the thing is, this is it. Persistence is everything.
Mhm.
Persist, be focused. But for me, it was that knowing, inner knowing that this is the thing I have to do, like an assignment, or it's very hard to really say. But why in 14 years I've not had one single day that it's not been in my mind, and yet you couldn't see any evidence of anywhere where you were going. I didn't know where I was going. No one knew where it's going, but now it's just through persistence. The landscapes are becoming clear. It's like being in an ocean and you're halfway across, and all of a sudden you think, my God, there's land there. I can finally see it, but you've been in that ocean forever. And finally the land turns up, the feeling of it's very overwhelming. It's not. And then the financial commitment. People say, my God, you poured a lot of money into that. So I poured heaps of money into it. Heaps of money. It's a big chunk of everything, your life, your time, your effort, and everything like that. But in the end, the reward is someone say could be really well paid for an idea. Yeah, I'd love to be really well. We all would, wouldn't we? We'd love to
Yeah.
be really well paid. But what makes me smile is that you think if that could brighten someone's day, if others get involved, and through just momentum, I'll share it with you. And I've said it for many years. I always spoke out. I'm so happy and grateful that I have, that I now, well, I don't know, can't remember it because I put it under pressure now, putting myself under pressure. So happy and grateful now that I've created Australia's most successful marketing campaign for kindness. And I just say that every now and then, and it's starting to materialize. They say your thoughts become things, and they really do. As you think about it, and but I'd say to everyone, be encouraged. Whatever your dream is, you want to be a teacher, you want to be whatever. Let no one spoil your dream in your heart, in your mind, and just go for it. But it's a tough slog. I got no, and you'll be challenged. You'll have many challenges along the way, and I'm not there yet neither. But the thing is, what's exciting is you can see something in it now. You can see a future in it. So you wake up with a bit more excitement. What could come of today because I can speak to someone like yourself and share this wonderful story, and others can get involved, or who knows who may hear it, and so on from there. And it's it's starting to feel like the rewards are coming, and you can see, when someone said to me, Mark, if you get one big brand, put that on their packaging, the rest is history, because if it can go on their packaging, it can go on all packaging. And
Mhm.
that's massive because I don't know how many packages that is, but it's a lot. And then if you just said 1 or 3 or 5% of the people got involved with those packages and it produced something that made someone smile, and that idea grew from there, and so on from there, then you can just imagine how it would explode into something absolutely huge. So yeah. Anyway, that day's coming. I'll remain in positive focus and see it through to the end. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And I
Mm,
feel like you've almost already given us so much advice because, of course, the last question I love to ask people is,
mm,
what piece of advice would you give to the next generation coming along after us? I feel like your entire podcast has been advice and inspiration and resilience and determination. But if there was one thing, and we could almost guess it's going to be kind, but if
mhm.
there was one piece of advice you could give, what would it be?
Well, it is be kind, and you know what? Kindness begins within. So yeah,
Absolutely. We have to be kind to ourselves.
yeah. So be kind to ourselves. Yeah, just believe in yourself. I think trust yourself enough to step forward in life. It's getting rocky out there. There's no doubt about that. And get yourself something, write it down on paper. Come up with the most craziest idea that you can generate from your mind. What would you like to do? What would you like to write it down as though it could really happen, and meditate on it, think on it, and dream a big dream, because it's the biggest dreams are all possible. And I heard it said, like, if you dream to get to, imagine a building's 10 stories high, your dream was to get to the sixth floor. If it took you 14 years or it took you 20 years, when you actually arrive at that floor, you will then realize you could have aimed for the 10th floor, and you would you would have got it too.
Mm,
So it's just connections, it's time. It is that saying. It's the idea. So it's an incubation period for that to happen, and then there's the manifestation of the desire in your heart, and it's so like it has that process. But people get excited in the start, and then in the middle, the middle's that ocean where you never think it'll come, and then eventually it's an outcome. But that's the cycle of, I think, how everything works. There's not one thing's been created that didn't start within the mind of a single individual. And then they met someone and shared an idea, and the minds of the world brought it all to pass. And now we sit under buildings, walk through shopping centers, and it was just someone's dream, and it's all becomes reality. And whereas we're no different than anyone else, no one's better than us. We just got to believe, and I think that belief will make it so. So that's my encouragement. But
I love that. That is such fantastic
mm,
advice,
mm,
and I resonate so much with so much of what you've said. So
mm,
I really appreciate you jumping on this podcast, Mark. I think the Rocky community, Central Queensland, more broader, and then of course Queensland and Australia and the
yeah,
world will really appreciate hearing this story, especially when you arrive at the land,
mm,
get off the boat, and you're on.
that's right. Happy days.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, thank you
and
so much. Mm.
yeah, beautiful. It's been absolutely wonderful talking to you. Thank you, and I hope everyone enjoys the upcoming Christmas as we move towards that. And yeah, stay as cool as possible in this hot weather that we're having. Yeah, lovely. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.